Ethan Caldwell sat in his car, the engine idling quietly in the driveway of his suburban home. It was a crisp autumn evening, the kind that wrapped itself around him like a warm blanket. Yet he felt cold and distant from his surroundings. The house he had worked so hard to build with his wife, Clara, suddenly felt more like a cage than a sanctuary. 9 years of marriage, filled with laughter, late-night talks, and dreams of a future together, seemed to hang by a thread, frayed and worn. He glanced through the window and saw Clara's silhouette in the living room, bathed in the warm light of the lamps. She was beautiful, he thought, a thought that had once brought him joy, now laced with bitterness. The way she tossed her hair back, the hint of a smile on her lips as she scrolled through her phone, it all seemed so normal, yet there was an undercurrent of tension that he couldn't shake. Over the past few months, their once vibrant relationship had become a series of strained conversations and icy silences, a shift he couldn't name but felt consume him nightly. As he sat there, an insistent voice echoed in his mind. Something was off. The signs were subtle but unmistakable. The late nights at work, the whispered conversations that halted when he entered the room, the way her laughter had become selective, directed only at her phone. Ethan knew he had to confront her, but the fear of what the truth might be clawed at his insides, binding him in place. This evening, however, would be different. He had stumbled upon a flurry of messages the week prior, clandestine exchanges with someone other than him. The name Ryan popped up repeatedly. Ethan felt a wave of nausea rise, but he pushed it back down, unwilling to be a victim of his own fears. A confrontation was inevitable. It had to be done. With a deep breath, he pushed the car door open and stepped into the night. As he walked towards the front door, uncertainty gnawed at him. What if it wasn't as he feared? What if Faye was involuntarily pulling away, caught up in the whirlwind of life? But deep down, he knew this was no longer just a hunch. Confrontation was the only path left. Clara looked up as he entered, her expression shifting from surprise to guarded. The air was thick, charged with unspoken words. "Ethan, you're home early," she said, her voice too cheerful, unsettling. "Clara, we need to talk," he replied, trying to sound calm, though the anger was bubbling just beneath the surface. About what? Her defensiveness was instinctual, a wall that had been built between them without either truly realizing it. "About Ryan, I know everything," he asserted, his voice steady despite the tempest within. "The messages, the late nights, it's over, Clara." Her face paled, eyes darting as she tried to construct a facade. "Ethan, you don't understand. Tell me what I don't understand," he interrupted, his voice rising. "Tell me why you've chosen betrayal over the life we built together." The words tumbled out, laced with hurt and anger. Clara's composure cracked. "I didn't mean to," she started, but Ethan wasn't interested in excuses. "What about our family? Our vows?" he demanded, frustration boiling over. "Was it all just a game to you?" Her hand flew to cover her mouth, the shock rendering her momentarily speechless. "Ethan, please, let's just talk this through," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "Talk? About what? Your infidelity? Do you really think there's anything left to salvage?" The realization of her betrayal ignited something fierce within him. He wasn't going to stand there bathed in her lies. Not anymore. Clara's composure shattered completely. "I was lonely. You were always working." "Lonely?" He laughed bitterly. "So you sought comfort in another man?" Classy, Clara. At that moment, something inside him twisted, and he found his sympathy evaporating. He thought of all the sacrifices he'd made for her career, all the nights he'd spent working late to provide the kind of life they had. A divorce might be a long, arduous process, filled with legal battles and uncertainty, but he would ensure she felt the consequences of her choices. "Ethan, please," she begged again, her eyes pleading. "No more please, Clara," he said coldly, walking towards her. "You can play the victim all you want, but it's time to face the music. This isn't just going to hurt you, it's going to hurt every single person you know." The mask of reassurance cracked further, and the sliver of guilt he'd felt morphed into a dark satisfaction. Her vulnerability was tangible, but his heart remained steeled. Whatever emotions had bound him to her were now twisted into a cold resolve. He had trusted her. and she had shattered that trust. It was time for her to see the world implode around her, a world he was prepared to dismantle piece by piece. He reached for his phone, glancing at the chaotic messages still visible in plain sight, knowing that each one would now serve as a document in their divorce proceedings. He took a step back and then let the full weight of his decision settle. "Tell Ryan that you're through with him. Your little fling ends tonight," Ethan declared. "And as for us, it's not just over. It's only just begun." Clara's face twisted in disbelief, and for the first time, vulnerability overpowered her. And in her eyes, Ethan found a bitter satisfaction that stirred something darker within him, the taste of retribution. Ethan watched Clara's reaction unfold, the realization sinking in that her life was about to spiral into chaos. The flicker of panic in her eyes was almost intoxicating. He supposed this was the cruel twist of fate, being on the other side of betrayal, ready to wield the very instrument of pain she had so carelessly wielded against him. He felt empowered, an undeniable strength settling beneath the rage, fueling his resolve. "I'll need to get documentation," he stated, casually scrolling through the messages on his phone, each one a dagger thrust into the relationship they had forged together. "This isn't just about you and me anymore. I want a divorce, Clara. Tomorrow I'm getting the paperwork started." "Divorce?" Clara mused, incredulous. "Ethan, can't we talk about this? There's still so much to consider." "Consider?" he echoed with derision. "You think I'm going to consider my own well-being while you lounge around with another man? No, I'm taking action, and you won't see it coming." The walls of the home they had built together, the very foundation of their lives, no longer felt as sturdy. Everything was suddenly drenched in betrayal. Ethan felt a pulse of excitement as he mentally prepared for the legal scene he would have to orchestrate. He would ensure that Clara faced the consequences of her actions. Not only would he fight for custody of their 2 children, but he would dismantle every semblance of stability she had left. He wouldn't just hurt her, he would obliterate her. "Do you have any idea what you're doing?" Clara challenged, her voice barely masking her fear. The defiance was slipping away, leaving behind a hollow shell. "Enlighten me, Clara," Ethan replied with a bite. "Because I'm pretty sure I already know what I want, and I'll make sure the world hears about your transgressions." As waves of uncertainty washed over her, he started detailing his plan in stark, unfiltered terms. "I'll go to our friends, our family. Let them know what a liar you are. You want to hide behind this image of a loving wife? Too bad. I will expose you for what you truly are." Clara's composure started to crumble. "How you wouldn't dare," she retorted weakly, even as her eyes darted nervously around the room, as if picturing the flurry of gasps and whispers that would follow. "I'll do whatever it takes," he asserted, his voice low, but lined with an intense fire. "Your career? I'll bring it crashing down. Every false smile, every betrayal, all those underhanded dealings, just waiting to see the light of day. You think I'll let you walk away clean?" He was losing himself in the beauty of it all, the chaos that was about to ensue. Raw satisfaction filled his heart, a twisted sense of righting the wrongs. Clara would understand, eventually, just how grave her decisions had been. With every word he spoke, the air filled with the promise of revenge, a tantalizing prospect, a narrative unfolding in which he controlled every chapter. "Ethan, please," Clara's voice peaked, her defenses rapidly eroding. "Think of the kids. They don't deserve this." The mention of their children struck a chord, but Ethan's resolve only sharpened. They deserve to know the truth about their mother. "Would you like them to grow up thinking betrayal and deceit are acceptable?" His voice was steady, devoid of the wavering emotion that normally accompanied discussions about their children. Every shred of his empathy for Clara dissipated, replaced by a burning mission. She had decided to destroy their family with her choices, and now it was his turn to reclaim control, to turn the tables harshly. "If you think I won't go through with this, you're sorely mistaken," he said, his voice as cold as the autumn air outside. "Tomorrow morning, the first thing I'll do is speak to a lawyer. I'll ensure our finances, everything we built, is cataloged and audited. I won't leave a single stone unturned." "Ethan!" She sounded desperate now, the menace of his resolve blunting her spirit. Let's not ruin everything. Maybe we can fix this. I don't want to fix it. You broke it, he interjected, his voice raising in pitch, rippling through the tense atmosphere. I'm not going to be the one holding the pieces together when you've tossed them into the abyss. Clara looked like she had aged years in mere moments, the facade of confidence stripped bare. What once seemed so vibrant now appeared dismal. Just tell me what you want, she whispered, the fight dissipating as desperation took hold. It's too late for negotiations, Clara, he said. What I want is to see you suffer the consequences of your actions, just like I've suffered. I'll make sure everyone knows you're more than just a cheater. You're a liar and a fraud, and I will not allow you to emotionally manipulate me any further. The pounding of his heart echoed in his ears. His mind turned to images of their friends, family, and coworkers, launching their whispers like daggers at Clara's back. The very thought thrilled him. The stage was set for an opening act, and Clara would take center stage, exposed and vulnerable, stripped of her dignity. Ethan, I need you, she pleaded, her voice cracking, pulling at whatever shred of compassion he had left. I can't do this on my own. I'll do better, I promise. No, he declared, solidifying his stance. There are consequences, Clara. There will be no redemption this time. What you did was unforgivable, and I won't even give you the chance to beg for it. He moved to leave, the air electric with unresolved tension. Just another chapter in this saga of destruction. Yet as he opened the door, turning back to glance one last time at the woman he had once loved, something within him twisted, a fierce resolve wrapped in a bitter fragment of sorrow. Don't bother trying to reach me, Clara. You've made your bed, and now it's time for you to lie in it. He walked out into the night, the cold air wrapping around him like a cloak. There was a storm brewing inside him, a mix of furiousness and triumph. In that moment, he wasn't just a victim. He was a force of nature, ready to unleash a reckoning upon the woman who had sought to destroy him. The next morning dawned cold and gray, the sky heavy with dark clouds that mirrored Ethan's mood. He had spent the night tossing and turning, yet his mind was laser-focused on the reckoning ahead. In this game of betrayal, he was no longer a pawn. Today, he was the king, and it was time to move decisively against the queen. Ethan strode into the bustling cafe where he had arranged to meet his lawyer, Julia Mercer. Her reputation in the legal community was formidable, and he wanted someone who wasn't afraid to go for the jugular. The bell above the door chimed as he entered, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, a stark contrast to the bitterness simmering inside him. Ethan, Julia called from a corner table, her sharp eyes immediately assessing him. She was in her mid-40s, with an air of efficiency and confidence that put him at ease. I'm glad you could make it. Thanks for meeting with me on short notice, Ethan replied, settling into the chair. Anxiety clenched at him like a vice, but it steeled his resolve. Today was about reclaiming control. Let's talk details, she said, pulling out her laptop and opening her notes. I understand there's a lot at stake here, both emotionally and financially. Ethan nodded, his hands tightening around the table. I want a divorce, and I want to make sure it's as public as possible. I don't want Clara to walk away unscathed. The words poured out like a dam breaking, liberating him from the weight of indecision. Julia raised a brow, intrigued. You understand there are legal ramifications to a public divorce? It can get messy. Are you prepared for that? Messy is what I want, he replied, a fierce conviction igniting within him. She needs to know there are consequences for her actions. I want full custody of our kids, and I want her to pay for her betrayal. With every word, he laid out the blueprint of his plan, detailing his wish to freeze their joint accounts, demand asset evaluations, and seek out any financial improprieties Clara had made during their marriage. Julia's interest peaked as she typed furiously, noting the potential for a strategic onslaught against Clara's reputation. This could change the dynamics of your case, Julia said, looking up with a glimmer of approval. If you're willing to gather evidence, emails, text messages, anything that shows your wife's misdeeds, it'll bolster your case significantly. I have it all, Ethan said, pride swelling in his chest. Every message, every late-night excuse for why she was out. I'll ensure she knows the world can't allow her to lie her way out. With every strategic move they planned, nausea transformed into exhilaration. The images of Clara's desperate, crumbling facade resonated in Ethan's mind. The fall from grace she would experience. He could almost see her friends' faces morphing from shock to disgust, the whispers of betrayal cascading like an avalanche down her social standing. Once they finalized the initial stages of the divorce paperwork, Ethan took a moment to breathe. This was a pivotal point in not just his life, but in setting the tone for Clara's consequences. "Ethan," Julia said, pulling him back into the conversation, "is there anything else we should discuss today? Any particular issues regarding child custody?" His face darkened at the thought. "I'm worried about the impact on our kids," he admitted, "but they deserve to know the truth about her actions." Julia nodded thoughtfully. "It may be worth considering how to approach this. Children are more intuitive than we give them credit for, and the tension in the household may already be affecting them. You want to ensure they are safe emotionally, regardless of how the legal battles unfold." Ethan slumped in his chair, a wave of conflict washing over him. Do I tell them about her affair? It felt like a loaded question. The truth weighed upon him heavily, the burden of arrogance adding an unbearable pressure to his heart. How could he be the one to destroy their mother's image in their eyes? "Only if you feel that's best," Julia replied gently. "When the time comes, just remember, the truth can resonate in many forms. You want to protect them while also maintaining honesty about the changes they will face." A storm of emotions churned within him. Anger, sadness, and an unyielding determination began to coalesce. "I want what's best for them. I'll protect them from the worst of it," he murmured, his voice betraying a hint of vulnerability. The conversation wrapped up with Julia zealously reminding him to collect any incriminating evidence that could bolster his case as the meeting came to a close. As they stood to leave, she offered a supportive smile. "You're going to come out stronger, Ethan. Just stay focused." The afternoon light outside was muted by clouds, but Ethan craved the chaos he was about to unleash. He took one last look at Julia before stepping outside into the chill of the day, reveling in the power shifting within him. As he drove home, his thoughts vacillated between excitement and an irrational fear of what lay ahead. He had set the wheels in motion, but like a hunter meticulously tracking his prey, he felt a surge of determination well up. He arrived home only to find Clara in the kitchen, her back to him as she washed dishes. The familiar scent of lavender wafted from her, igniting fresh resentment. How could she stand there, indifferent, knowing the devastation she had caused? "Ethan!" She turned, feigning surprise, but with a keen awareness of the tension crackling between them. The air was electric again as she sensed changes in him. "I'm home," he declared, a sarcastic edge to his voice. "We need to talk about the divorce." Clara's face fell. The facade of poise melted away. "I thought we could work things out." Ethan let a sardonic smile creep onto his lips. "No, Clara. You've made your choices, and now it's time to pay the price. I'm not interested in negotiation. What's done is done." For a moment, she looked subdued, then desperation reemerged. "You don't have to do this to me. I'll change. Just give me a chance to make things right." "Change?" He laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "You had your chance, Clara. You squandered it the moment you decided I wasn't worth your loyalty." Clara's defenses crumbled, replacing bravado with unmasked vulnerability. "Oh, you don't mean that," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, a raw contrast to the chilling resolve consuming him. "You're right. I don't," he shot back coldly, staring her down. "Because I really mean it when I say, there will be no forgiveness, only consequences." With those final words, he turned away, leaving Clara staring after him, stripped of dignity. The weight of what lay ahead filled him with a dark sense of satisfaction. As he closed the door behind him, the shadow of a smile crept on his face. He felt a sense of liberation seize him, the thrill of taking back control surging within. In that moment, he realized this was just the beginning of reclaiming his life. One deliberate, calculated move at a time. The following days unfolded as a tense chess match between Ethan and Clara. Each move calculated, each pawn sacrificed for the greater goal. The real battle had only just begun, a war of hearts and reputation that would unfold beneath the gaze of the neighbors, friends, and family. Yet, for Ethan, the stakes had never felt higher. After initiating divorce proceedings, Ethan planned meticulously, expecting Clara to react with a blend of guilt and denial. The game had shifted, and he was prepared for every possible scenario. In the days after the confrontation, he collected evidence to fortify his case. Each day brought a new revelation, a text message here, a suspicious expense there. He was relentless. He found himself combing through their joint accounts and discovered dozens of subtle transactions tied to Clara's affair. Dinner at upscale restaurants, expensive gifts, and her unmarked indulgences. The truth lay scattered like breadcrumbs leading to her betrayal. Fueling his resolve further, he gathered documentation and printed screenshots, mentally preparing for the dramatic unveiling. Ethan had also retained a private investigator to dig deeper into Clara's interactions with Ryan. If her actions were public, they'd be dealt with publicly. He needed to uncover every aspect of their connection, revealing the depth of her deceit. The investigator provided constant updates, each new detail heightening Ethan's anticipation. Just wait, Ethan consoled himself, imagining Clara's face when everything was unveiled. He relished the thought of bringing her down, but each day also weighed heavy with the emotional fallout. The kids remained a priority. He consistently fought the urge to shield them from the reality of the situation. Yet he knew that truth could no longer be ignored. In the evenings, he would check on their children, Mia and Theo, simmering to ask how they were feeling. He observed them closely, the innocence in their laughter, momentarily soothing the turmoil in his heart. But beneath it all, he knew their world was about to shift tectonically. How could he prepare them for what was coming? They were resilient, but would that be enough? Clara continued to put on a facade, attempting to maintain an air of domestic normalcy. Yet her efforts faltered with every exchange. During mealtimes, her nervous laughter felt stilted, and her attempts to engage with the children fell flat. Each interaction only deepened the fracture between them, amplifying Ethan's resolve. At work, he wore his mask of professionalism, but the simmering rage pushed him to new heights of productivity, enabling him to throw himself into projects with renewed vigor. Colleagues noticed, offering commendations. His sharpened focus didn't go unnoticed. Yet, beneath the surface, every positive interaction was laced with darkness. Each success, a mirage meant to distract him from the storm brewing at home. A week later, Ethan found himself at a corporate event, an annual gala for his firm. The hall buzzed with energy, laughter mingling with the clinking of glasses. Surrounded by peers and friends, he spotted Clara enter, her eyes darting around the room nervously, a stark contrast to the confidence she had once effortlessly exuded. Accompanied by Ryan, she wore a dress that hugged her curves, but the sparkle in her eyes was absent. Ethan's chest tightened at the sight. This was the moment he had envisioned, but reality intertwined with dread. "I can't believe she actually showed up," he muttered under his breath. "Ethan, are you okay?" asked his colleague, Jenna, who had approached him. She noticed his stiffness. "For now," he replied, forcing a smile through the tension. As the crowd continued to mingle, Ethan caught Clara's eye. He possessed another drive now, a compulsion to confront her publicly. It was an instinctive move, one that harnessed both vengeance and a desire to reclaim his narrative. With determination, he approached Clara, who was engrossed in conversation with Ryan. The sight of them together struck him like a physical blow. "We need to talk," he declared, cutting through their chatter, feeling invincible amidst the thrumming heartbeat of the gala. Over and around them, the chatter faded as eyes turned to watch the unfolding drama. "Ethan, you shouldn't make a scene," Clara hissed, her expression shifting from surprise to alarm as the onlookers narrowed in. "Why not? Isn't this exactly where you thrive?" He smirked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "In public, flaunting your infidelity?" Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Ryan stepped back with a mix of confusion and trepidation. Clara's face turned pale as the impact of his accusation hit her squarely. "Stop it," she pleaded, but her voice trembled, succumbing to the weight of attention. Ethan's heart raced with exhilaration. "No, let's air this out, shall we? Your lifestyle isn't just affecting you, it's affecting our kids too." "Let's not ruin this night," Clara protested weakly, her facade crumbling. "Why? Because you want to maintain appearances?" He laughed coldly, soaking in the incredulous glances of their colleagues. "I think it's too late for that." "Ethan," she hissed, desperate, "please don't do this. We can talk about this later." But the damage was done. "Talk?" he echoed, his voice climbing higher with each octave. "You think this ends in a quiet discussion? I think our family deserves to know how you've been living behind closed doors, about the opportunistic lifestyle you've decided to embrace." Whispers surged through the onlookers, amplified by the shock echoing through the room like a tidal wave. Clara's face flushed, a deep crimson flooding her cheeks, and Ethan could see the gears turning within her, the feeble attempts to regain control slipping further out of reach. "Just stop!" she cried out, her voice cracking under the pressure. "You're making a scene!" But it was too late. The scene was his to command, every breath filled with triumph. "You may want to seem innocent, but I'm here to make sure everyone knows the truth. The truth about you, I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are. A liar, a cheat. You're nothing without your games." "I can't believe you would air our dirty laundry like this," Clara spat, all sophistication stripped away. "You'll regret this, Ethan." "Regret? Not even a little," he declared, his voice steady. "This is just the beginning. Everyone deserves to see the real you for what you are. An illusion." The appraising looks from colleagues and acquaintances were intoxicating. He had taken the fight straight to the heart of the illusion Clara had cultivated. Beneath the layers of perceived strength, he could see the cracks, her facade crumbling, vulnerability laid bare. As the murmurs of confusion and shock rippled through the crowd, Ethan stepped back, relishing the spectacle unfolding. He met Clara's gaze unwaveringly, the batons of her past failures held firmly in hand. There was no way back now. The public unveiling of betrayal was complete. She stood alone, her kingdom stripped bare, right in front of everyone. "You wanted to live a lie? Fine. But I'll expose that lie for what it is," he added, relishing every word. She could feel the weight of his contempt, and he would enjoy each moment of it. With a final glance toward the crowd, he turned and walked away, leaving Clara to face the glares of others, the room thick with judgment and disdain. His heartbeat pounded in his ears, a mix of exhilaration and purpose. What came next didn't matter. It was all part of the plan. He was no longer just playing the victim, but commanding the narrative. The world would witness Clara's unraveling, and he would ensure that she faced her consequences. And as he stepped into the night, the thrill of victory surged within him. He had taken a gamble, and the rewards began to materialize. The chaotic intertwining of revenge and renewal gave him a new sense of purpose. The future was his to shape now, no longer dictated by betrayal but forged through the fire of conflict. As Ethan stepped outside the gala, the cool night air hit him like a refreshing wave, washing away the heat of confrontation. It felt invigorating to have exposed Clara, and more importantly, to reclaim the narrative of their lives. While the stakes were high and the consequences looming, he felt alive, empowered in a way he hadn't in years. The thrill of revenge was intoxicating, a black elixir coursing through his veins, fueling his resolve like a wildfire. The moments following the public confrontation felt as if they were suspended in time. The shock still echoed back at the venue, but he had already transitioned, shifting his focus to the next move, a tactical advance in the ongoing war. The battle had only just begun, and he needed to prepare for what came next. Ethan pulled out his phone and sent a text to Julia, his attorney. "Need to meet. Things escalated tonight. Can we talk first thing tomorrow?" He didn't have to wait long for a response. She understood the urgency. He returned home, every step heavier with the weight of impending confrontation. Clara was still reeling from their public scene, but he could already imagine how she'd spin the narrative to portray herself as the victim. Anger bubbled just beneath the surface. Inside, Clara was sitting silently on the sofa, her face drawn tight, an image of pain and humiliation. "Ethan," she said softly, hesitating as she tried to gather her composure. "What were you thinking?" "What was I thinking?" he echoed incredulously. "This is about you and Ryan. You think I'd just sit back and pretend everything is fine?" "You didn't have to make a scene," she shot back. Her defiance crumbled, but not entirely extinguished. "You could have at least talked to me privately." "Talk? Do you really believe there's anything left to say?" He stepped closer, his voice low but fierce. "You severed our trust the moment you decided to betray our family." "I didn't mean for it to happen this way," Clara said, her voice wavering as if grappling for sympathy. "No, but it did. You made your bed, and now you'll lie in it. And I will make sure everyone knows, your friends, your work, even social media. You had that luxury of anonymity, but not anymore. Understand?" The cold conviction in his tone felt empowering. He savored the moment, reveling in his newfound strength. "Ethan, please. Think of the kids," Clara pleaded, her armor cracked, tears glistening in her eyes. "They will know the truth. They deserve to understand the choices you made." "It might hurt them now, but we won't teach them to live in a world of lies." His heart raced, not with regret, but with an unwavering certainty that this was meant to happen. If he had to be the harbinger of Clara's slice of reality, then so be it. "Don't do this," she implored softly, her voice now hoarse. "You're pushing everyone away, including me." "That's the point," he replied sharply, his anger simmering to the surface again. "I refuse to be another name on the list of people you can exploit for your own benefit. You think you can lie to me for years and come out unscathed? Not under my watch. This isn't just about us anymore," her voice trembled as she continued. "You're hurting our children. You're ruining the last shred of family we have." Ethan resisted the urge to falter. Sure, he didn't want to hurt Mia and Theo, but he was desperate for them to be shielded from Clara's deceptions. The need for truth outweighed everything else. An air of determination hung over him. "I'm not ruining anything. This is the truth, Clara. And as your husband, I owe it to them to be forthcoming about your actions. You want to avoid responsibility, but they need to know who you really are, both good and bad." Silence settled uncomfortably between them. Clara knew he was right. She sensed his impending resolve, a tidal wave of purpose that left little room for negotiation. He noticed her eyes soften, metamorphosing from anger to a pleading sorrow. But he was impenetrable now, a fortress built on betrayal. "Fine," she finally said, her tone weary. "You've made your decision. Just know this. You may think you win, but in the end, we both lose." Her statement hung in the air, like a bell tolling for what was to come, a prophecy of the chaotic confrontations ahead. But Ethan viewed it as an ominous challenge. If he was going to emerge victorious, he needed to stay one step ahead, deploying calculated maneuvers, dismantling Clara piece by piece. He turned to leave, the tension electrifying the space between them. "Prepare yourself for what comes next, Clara. If you want this battle, I will unleash your truth with no reservations. No more hiding behind the illusion of a perfect life." Clara sank into the sofa, her defeat palpable. The battle lines had been drawn. There was no backing down now. Ethan walked out, the sense of power propelling him forward, unyielding. The following day, Ethan met with Julia again, his mind brimming with determination. "Here's what I'm thinking," he said, laying out the groundwork for the strategy that would unravel Clara's carefully constructed world. The details poured forth as he and Julia examined the evidence he had gathered, the illicit transactions, the texts that melted the boundaries of their marital bond. He began plotting to leverage the information effectively. "I want to show Clara that this isn't just about our marriage. It's about the boundaries she crossed," he articulated, his voice steady but teeming with emotion. I won't allow her to sidestep the absolute devastation she has caused. Julia nodded, taking in every word. Make it clear that you're prepared to go the distance. The more we can gather and present, the more we can assert control in this case. We'll spin it in a way that makes her actions seem calculated, Ethan replied, a fierce resolve igniting within him. Let her friends watch as her life unravels in front of them. I want her to feel that shame, every single inch of it. Julia's eyes glinted with approval. This could be a pivotal point in your case, she advised. You're not only fighting for assets, you're also fighting for your children's future perception of their mother. We need to ensure they see the truth. As they strategized, Ethan's anger transformed into relentless determination. Clara had thrown too much away. It was time for her reckoning. After their meeting concluded, he returned home, a spring in his step. Despite the emotional toll, he felt rejuvenated and eager to confront the challenges ahead. The day loomed larger and larger. His plan was set into motion, and soon, Clara's world would come crashing down upon her. He approached the front door, feeling the weight within his chest lessen, ready to face Clara again. They would have discussions about the children, the home, everything they held dear, all while masked with the shadows of what had occurred just weeks ago. But above all, for the first time in months, he felt he could finally begin to reclaim his life and identity, and that was worth everything. Clara's betrayal had transformed him. He was no longer the man who turned a blind eye. He was a warrior in a battle for truth, determined to protect the only innocence that mattered, his children's. Clara would see the repercussions. There was no room left for deception in the light of truth. And with that unwavering thought, he stepped through the doorway, preparing for the storm that would surely come next. The days turned into a whirlwind of strategic planning. Ethan could feel the momentum building around him, a palpable energy stemming from the confrontation at the gala that had catapulted him into action. He was resolutely focused. Every interaction with Clara now served a purpose, each discussion framed by the reality of their crumbling marriage. He was no longer a passive participant in his life. He was the architect of its reconstruction. In the moments when they crossed paths at home, Clara remained tense, her demeanor shifting from defiance to subdued dread. Nevertheless, she tried to maintain appearances. Family routines remained intact, even helping Mia and Thea with their homework and preparing meals, owing to the fact that life on the surface needed to seem normal for the kids. But the cracks grew wider with each forced smile, exchanged between Ethan and Clara. In a meeting with Julia, Ethan laid out a forthright agenda. We need to make sure we document everything, he began, the details of their separation weighing on his mind. I want to make Clara aware that this isn't just about our marriage. It's about accountability. I can't allow her to paint me as the bad guy. Julia nodded. That's the right approach. If we compile evidence of her dishonesty, financial and emotional, it will significantly strengthen your case. The more transparent you are with your intentions, the better. Exactly, he affirmed, feeling the embers of determination reigniting. I don't want to get lost in the emotions. Legal proceedings can drag out, but I won't let them blur my focus. I'm standing for our kids, and I will show them that deceit hurts, especially when it comes from someone they love. Julia leaned forward, her expression serious. It's essential we maintain this pace. Time is on your side, and public perception is a weapon, especially for her. They worked diligently, compiling each financial output tied to Clara's affair and scrutinizing the patterns that revealed the full picture. Rowan's name emerged amongst the details, a phantom of deceit that loomed over Ethan like a dark cloud. It became clear that revealing who Ryan truly was, the man behind Clara's various alibis, would be crucial. If he wanted to fully dismantle the facade, the truth about Clara's choices needed to be laid bare. Do you think I should inform Ryan of the divorce? Ethan mused one afternoon, an unsettling curiosity bubbling within him. Let him know how this will all unfold. Depends on your intent, Julia replied, her gaze sharp. If you want to ensure he knows he will be publicly implicated if he remains involved with her, then yes. Use that as leverage. Make it clear that everything Clara has hidden can come crashing down around her if she continues this path. Sitting in the sterile office, adorned with legal diplomas and legal pads, Ethan toyed with the idea. Clara had dragged someone else into their messy world. Maybe it was time to remind Ryan of the consequences of his choices as well. If one more person felt the repercussions of their deception, it would only heighten the stakes. Having no link to Ryan aside from Clara's strained connection through his engagement, he opted to seek out a means to reach out discreetly. He searched through mutual acquaintances until he managed to follow a thread leading back to Ryan through a colleague, a friend of Ethan's, whose wife worked with Ryan. With a few casual inquiries spun into natural conversations, Ethan acquired Ryan's contact information. He felt that familiar rush of adrenaline, the sweet taste of revenge, hovering almost within reach. Later that evening, sitting at a quiet kitchen table, Ethan typed out a message, weighing each word carefully. We need to talk about Clara. Trust me, it would be in your best interest to hear me out. The anticipation clawed at him as he hit send. It was a low blow, but after everything Clara had put him through, he felt it was a rightful blow. For him, the moral implications were dwindling. Self-preservation and the future of his children reigned supreme. His heart raced when Ryan responded just a short time later. What do you mean? Can we talk tomorrow? Absolutely. I'll text you the time and place. As each message pinged back and forth, Ethan felt like he was walking a tightrope, balancing love and vengeance. He had no intention of inciting violence. His purpose was far more complicated. He wanted clarity, a clean, blatant acknowledgement of the choices made by both Clara and Ryan. The next day, Ethan nervously orchestrated a rendezvous at a local coffee shop, the kind of neutral territory that was bustling yet isolated enough to maintain privacy. As he walked in, he surveyed the room before spotting Ryan at a corner table, his demeanor carefree, unaware of the storm that was about to touch down. As Ryan looked up and recognized Ethan, surprise flashed in his eyes. Hey, didn't expect to see you here, he said, lounging back in his seat. Right, neither did I. But we need to talk. Ethan's tone was curt, honing in on the gravity of the conversation at hand. Sure, about what? Ryan asked, his question riddled with confidence but tinged with confusion. Ethan could feel the tension thickening, surging with urgency. About Clara. More specifically, about her recent choices and the repercussions that follow. Ryan's smile faltered slightly as he took notice of the intensity simmering beneath Ethan's calm exterior. What about her? You probably don't know this, but Clara's been playing a dangerous game. You're not in the clear. You're just as involved as she is, Ethan stated bluntly. And she may present herself as the innocent party, but the reality is, both you and I need to be aware of the fallout to come. Ryan's brow furrowed, confusion morphing into unease. Wait a second. What are you talking about? The affair, her deception. It's all about to explode publicly. I'm filing for divorce, and I have every intention of ensuring that truth comes to light. Ethan's words were crisp and direct. You should know that everything you two have done will become widely known. Not only your side of the story, but also how it impacts our kids. Okay, Ethan, look, Ryan began, but Ethan cut him off. Don't play naive. The truth is an avalanche, and it's rolling toward you both. I just wanted you to understand your position before Clara and I unveil everything. Ethan leaned over the table, piercing Ryan with a determined stare. The truth is ugly, and it will hit hard. Stunned silence met his proclamation. Ryan leaned back, visibly shaken. You can't do that to her, or me, he said weakly. Oh, I can, and I will, Ethan declared. You thought you had a safe escape with her? Think again. What you're involved in now affects more than just you. It's got consequences. As Ryan fumbled over his words in disbelief, Ethan harbored a fierce sense of satisfaction. He had disrupted the status quo, shaken the foundation of trust that Clara had built with Ryan, all while commanding the narrative. Outreach to Ryan was more than about justice. It was about showing strength, wielding power over those who thought they could betray his family without repercussion. "Just take a moment to consider what I'm saying," Ethan pressed, standing up to leave. "You're not just entangled in a relationship. You're playing with fire, and that fire will engulf everything in sight." With that, Ethan departed, feeling revitalized, remembering the fragile innocence of his children. Someone now had to prioritize consequences, and he was resolute in his determination to unravel everything Clara had built, brick by brick. The resolve burned brightly within him, as he knew the next phase of this battle would be waged in full, unmasked glory. It was all coming together, each thread weaving towards greater exposure. The days ahead would be tumultuous, but Ethan was ready. He hadn't just stepped into the ring, he had thrown out the gauntlet, and he would emerge on the other side firmly cemented as father, protector, and the one who would lead the way through the wreckage. Ethan returned home, his heart racing with determination as he replayed the confrontation with Ryan in his mind. The moment itself had felt surreal, a balance of triumph and foreboding. The stakes were rising, and every move he made drawing him deeper into a game he'd never asked to play. He steeled himself for the impending fallout, relishing the idea of revealing Clara's betrayal in a way that would highlight the consequences of her deception, not just for him, but also for their children. The atmosphere at home had shifted in the days following his meeting with Ryan, and the tension felt thicker. Clara was on edge, her attempts to engage with their children strained, her laughter insufficient to mask the cracks in her facade. Ethan watched as the darkness slowly enveloped her, but he knew it was necessary. This was part of the reckoning. One evening, the children were deep in their routine, Mia engrossed in her art project and Theo experimenting with building blocks. Ethan used these moments to foster normalcy, creating a serene backdrop for the turbulent emotional storms that lay ahead. Clara had retreated into her own world, but he noticed her furtive glances towards him, as if bracing for an inevitable confrontation. Ethan made a decision. The next meal would be a critical family meeting. He needed to prepare their kids for the changes ahead, though the thought of shattering their illusions of a perfect home tightened his stomach into knots. "Kids," he called as he set the table with extra care. "Dinner's ready." The clatter of chairs announced their arrival, and the discordant chatter of excitement filled the room. The innocence etched on their faces nestled into a corner of Ethan's heart, reminding him why he had to pursue the truth. He exchanged cordial smiles with Clara as she entered, but he could see the apprehension written all over her features. He cleared his throat, drawing their attention. "I want to talk to you all about something important." The chatter muted instantly, replaced by the tense silence of uncertainty. Ethan glanced at Clara, who appeared pale, but tried to maintain an air of confidence. It was time to expose the surroundings that had masked the growing wreckage of their family. "Mia, Theo," he began, his voice trembling slightly but steadied with resolve. "I want you to know that your mom and I will be separating. We're getting a divorce." Wide-eyed and confused, the children exchanged glances. "Why?" Mia asked, a frown crinkling her brow. Ethan plunged onward, minimizing the details, but maximizing transparency. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt each other. And when those choices happen, it's better for everyone if they live apart. "But I don't want you to," Theo protested, his brows knitting together with indignation as he bit on his lower lip, fighting back tears. "You can't." "Why can't you just fix it?" Ethan felt the stab of a heartbreak pierce through his resolve. "I wish it were that easy, buddy. But some choices can't be undone. Your mom and I still love you very much, and we'll always be here for you." "Why can't Mom just be good?" Mia added, her questions laced with innocence, highlighting the grown-up troubles they had no way to comprehend. Clara's expression turned into a mask of despair, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Ethan, you can't put this on me." He felt the anger bubble back beneath the surface, tempered only by the necessity of honesty with his children. He couldn't let her deflect her responsibility onto him, not now. "We're all responsible for our actions, Clara. You made choices that put us in this position, and the kids deserve to understand that. Ethan, Clara hissed, this isn't the way to handle it. They're too young for these kinds of conversations. No, Clara. They need to know that every action has consequences. Hiding the truth and pretending it's fine only serves to further break down the trust they have in us. The vulnerability in Mia and Theo's faces was heart-wrenching, and it struck a chord deep within him. He stepped closer. Listen, we'll get through this together. Your mom and I will both be there for you at all times. There's nothing you can't tell us, and nothing can change how much we love you. But the air crackled with tension, a petulant acknowledgement of the growing rift. Clara stood, her voice rising. Don't act like everything is so simple. After what you just did. Clara, he warned, this isn't only about you anymore. Your actions have consequences, and they impact this family. Their children were quiet now, absorbing the tidal wave of emotions that flared around them, barely able to process the upheaval swirling in the room. He took a deep breath, fighting his rising frustration. This is our reality now, but we'll adapt. We're still a family. Family? Clara sneered, her resentment cutting through the air like a knife. You're trying to destroy me. This isn't about being a family, it's about public humiliation. We've already gone through that, Clara, Ethan shot back. You made this happen. Every moment you choose deceit, you choose to tear this family apart. Mia and Theo looked between them, confusion evident in their eyes. Can't we just all be together again? Theo whispered, his voice shaky, heartbreak lacing his words. Ethan knelt down in front of them, the weight of emotion pressing down his chest. I wish I could promise you that, buddy, but sometimes love isn't enough. And that truth is tough to accept. Clara crossed her arms, visibly shaken but unwilling to yield. You'll see what your little plan does, Ethan, she spat, bitterness coating her voice. Playing the victim won't work forever. Victim! He felt his anger crack like thunder. I'm not the one who's hiding behind deception while you play games. My plans are for our children's ultimate clarity and protection, something you've openly dismissed. The moment hung thick in the air, an unyielding tension battering against the walls of their home. Clara's eyes betrayed her hatred turned inward, a full circle of resentment. He stood back, a steady resolve settling within him. For his children, he was determined to cut through the darkness, come what may. Their children exchanged worried looks, their bodies wavering between the growing tension of a disintegrating family. Ethan leaned close and hugged each of them tightly, inhaling the scent of innocence he wanted to protect fiercely. I love you, both of you, he murmured, giving them a steady look as he pulled away. We will get through this together, no matter the road ahead. With that, Ethan rose, the weight of responsibility fueling him. He needed to ensure the painful realities faced didn't trap his kids within their mother's deceit. The future lay open, and he would pave their way forward. Clara stood there, a shadow of resentment crystallizing on her face. Ethan could sense the resentment binding them together, but he wouldn't let the rage pull him down. This was not a fight. It was a necessary segment of a journey, one he would lead with unwavering conviction. The path would be challenging, lines delineated by her choices, but he was determined. With great resolve, he accepted the shifting landscape. This was merely the beginning, and he would not falter. The truth was his weapon now, and he owed it to his children to shield them from the lies shrouding their family. Outside, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow across the horizon, a silent witness to the chapter's unfolding. Ethan stood firm, ready for the twists and turns ahead, but also prepared to nurture the bonds he had with his children. Their battles might be considerable, but he stood there ready as a warrior for truth, ready to face the trials with honor and resilience. The days that followed the family discussion were marked by a tense, unsteady normalcy. Ethan knew the storm was far from over, and every interaction with Clara felt like navigating a minefield. Moments of supposed routine were overshadowed by uncertainty. The distance between them had become an unbridgeable chasm. Yet, While Clara continued to wear her mask of strained composure, Ethan remained resolute in guarding his children against the emotional fallout of their divorce. With each passing day, the tension morphed into something palpable, barely contained hostility. Clara's attempts to maintain appearances were laced with unease, as if she sensed the effects of Ethan's honesty starting to take hold in their children. Their home, once a sanctuary of laughter and love, echoed with the remnants of what had been. One evening, after tucking the children into bed, Ethan found himself in the living room, staring out the window at the gradually darkening sky. It was a calm night, but the atmosphere inside was anything but. When Claire entered, he barely turned around. The sound of her footsteps sent the familiar stirrings of tension swirling through him. "Ethan, we need to talk about the kids," she said. Her tone strained, but devoid of the typical anger that characterized their recent encounters. He turned to face her, crossing his arms defensively. "What about them? You can dodge the truth all you want, but they deserve to know what's happening. Maybe we should discuss how to approach this together instead of creating more hostility," she suggested, her voice slightly tremulous. "They're still kids, and they're struggling." "Struggling because of you," he shot back, frustration boiling over. "You can't just pretend everything is fine after what you've done. You think I'm making their lives harder? You've already placed a ticking time bomb in their hearts." Clara's face tightened, realization dawning in her eyes. "I know I made mistakes, but I would never intentionally hurt them." "Then own up to it. Show them that you can be accountable for your actions," he replied, his voice dropping to a low, controlled growl. "Instead, you're left hoping the lies will protect you." "Ethan," she sighed, her posture softening. "I'm human. I made mistakes in a difficult moment. None of this is easy for me." "Being human means acknowledging your faults, Clara," he pressed, feeling the familiar anger coursing through him. "You don't get to cry about it while still evading the consequences." "Fine," she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What do you suggest we do about it, then? You think I'm enjoying being the villain in this story? Rising to that role doesn't make it any less true, does it?" Ethan shot back, sparking the fire anew. "The very least you can do is take responsibility when you're seen for who you really are. They deserve to see you own it." Silence hung heavy between them as Clara averted her gaze, clearly grappling with the thought of revealing her regrets, perhaps even to herself. "I hate this," she finally murmured, sadness threading through her voice. "This isn't what I wanted." "The question isn't what you wanted. It's about what you caused," Ethan replied, his voice steady but edged with defiance. "There's no turning back now, Clara. We both know that." "Then what will it take?" Her words hung in the air, fraught with vulnerability. "What do you want from me?" With a sharp intake of breath, he thought carefully before responding. "I want to ensure our children don't become collateral damage in this. If you want to step up, do it for them. They should see a mother willing to apologize, willing to fight for their trust again." Clara was quiet for a long moment, the shadows playing across her features as she weighed his words. When it all comes out, it won't be easy. They will be hurt by the truth. Yes, they will. But the sooner they learn to face reality, the better prepared they'll be for whatever lies ahead. They need you in their corner, not hiding behind an illusion," Ethan asserted, his heart tightening at the thought of those precious moments lost forever. Finally, Clara's shoulders sagged in defeat. "You're right," she conceded softly. "Maybe I can talk to them about it. But how do I begin? Just saying I'm sorry doesn't feel like enough." "Whatever it takes to show them you can be honest," he replied, easing his tone. "Let them see the truth of your failure, not just the polished veneer you've worn." "That's real strength." As she nodded solemnly, Ethan could feel the tension between them shift slightly. There was an acknowledgement that perhaps, just perhaps, they could navigate this maze together, even as they faced down their demons separately. The next few days saw Clara attempt to connect with Mia and Theo. She engaged them in conversations about emotions, hurt, and how to process these monumental changes. Although her efforts initially sparked hesitance, the children slowly opened up. "Mom, why did you feel like you had to hide things?" Mia asked one evening, her small voice filled with uncertainty. Clara dropped to the floor, meeting her daughter's gaze. Because sometimes I was scared, Mia. I was scared of disappointing you and your brother. But hiding doesn't make things better. It only makes them worse. Ethan observed from a distance, recognizing the effort Clara was finally making. He had never thought they would reach this point, but it felt like baby steps toward reclamation. Perhaps this clarity would allow the kids to navigate their emotions through the storm ahead. Yet as Clara's honest dialogues with the children increased, Ethan was still entrenched in preparations for what was coming. He sensed the shadows lengthening, aware that the time was drawing near for him to bring Clara's affair fully out into the open. The thought of Ryan's tarnished reputation mingled with contempt, and while he gathered his evidence, he felt the weight of responsibility to ensure his kids understood the motivations behind the turmoil. On a Friday night, Ethan arranged another meeting with Julia, determined to solidify his plans. They gathered in her office, coffee in hand, and as they sat side by side, he laid out the specifics of what he wanted to draft moving forward. I want to make sure Clara realizes the depth of what she's done, he explained, barely containing his fervor. It's time to show her that her choices matter, especially the effects on our children's lives. Julia nodded, her own determination matching his. You're not just fighting for assets, but for the emotional stability of your kids, a component that becomes more significant in custody discussions. Yes, he affirmed. I want to be the one they rely on, the anchor that steadies them through this chaos. She has to understand her actions have repercussions beyond just our relationship, and I want them to see that. As they peppered through the specifics, Ethan felt invigorated by the clarity of purpose. He was reclaiming agency over his own life, and for every piece of evidence he gathered, he saw a reflection of strength solidifying within him. When the meeting concluded, Julia had helped him prepare a mediation outline that focused on truth-telling and accountability. To be mindful in how you frame the narrative around the kids when you discuss any mediation, she warned. It's crucial their well-being is front and center, and you set the tone about how Clara's decisions will impact them as you pave the way forward. Ethan left, feeling a rush of hope bursting through him. As he navigated the world ahead, he channeled that energy toward ensuring their children would never feel forsaken by their parents, no matter how twisted the past had become. That night, he approached Clara one last time, ready to fortify their new approach. I believe in what you began with them, he said as they stood by the kitchen sink, a slight smile resting on his lips. But remember, these emotional discussions are vital. They need both of us to show support, regardless of our separate paths. Clara met his gaze, eyes softening. I'll do whatever it takes for them, she whispered, a promise hanging in the air. Then let's go forward together, one step at a time. We will get through this. And with that, a tenuous understanding crystallized between them, a truce forged in the fires of turmoil. Despite the raging storm looming ahead, the faintest glimmer of hope flickered in the darkness. They would not let this chaos destroy everything they had built, nor allow it to bury their children in a whirlpool of deceit. They would be better together, if only for the sake of those who mattered most. The passage of time felt both fleeting and eternal as the weeks turned into a calculated series of interactions. Ethan found himself in a tumultuous purgatory, balancing the weight of impending legal battles with the emotional needs of his children. Clara's efforts to bond with Mia and Shio had moments of genuine warmth, evolving into deeper conversations around their feelings about the divorce. But ensuring honesty didn't absolve her of accountability. It only highlighted the work that lay ahead. Ethan had the grounded sense of purpose he had long sought to nurture. He was determined to ensure that the truth of Clara's choices would be laid bare, not only to the world, but to their children as well. Each stone peeled away to reveal what lay underneath. Each day brought subtle conflicts simmering beneath the surface, and he prepared himself for every potential eruption. One afternoon, while sitting at the kitchen table, he caught Clara on the phone, her voice a mere whisper, almost conspiratorial. He strained to hear, wondering if it was Ryan on the other end. He felt his heart race, an unsettling feeling creeping up his spine. It was a reminder that the fracture she had caused ran deeper than emotional wounds. Even the act of communication seemed clouded with distrust. "Ethan?" Clara interrupted his thoughts, her voice perplexed. "Can we talk?" He nodded, feeling the weight of his determination coiled tightly in his chest. "About what?" "About the kids again," she said, her voice wavering slightly, revealing the anxiety beneath her facade. "They're still struggling. The other day, Theo asked me why we couldn't just go back to the way things were." Ethan took a breath, a mix of frustration and empathy filling the air around them. "You can't just gloss over this. It's not your fault their idea of family is crumbling. But what can we do to help guide them?" "I want to do more than just say I'm sorry," she replied, tears pooling in her eyes. "I'm starting to realize how selfish I was. I thought I was protecting them by avoiding responsibility. I didn't want them to think poorly of me. And yet, keeping them in the dark won't work either," Ethan said quietly. "They deserve to know why things are changing, even if it's painful. It's about rebuilding trust, and that starts with honesty." Clara scrunched her eyes shut, visibly grappling with the truth of his words. "You're right. I didn't think about how living in a lie would hurt them even more in the long run." "Then let's take this step together," Ethan said. "Sharing where we messed up, owning that pain as parents. It might just help them understand the world isn't perfect." The moment weighed heavy in the air, but a sense of connection blossomed, albeit tentative. Ethan could sense that Clara was confronting her own hesitations. "Can we do it with them tonight?" Clara suggested, the urgency blending into hopeful determination. "Absolutely. But it's important to frame our discussion positively," he responded. "We need them to feel safe enough to express their feelings." As dusk fell, they gathered the children around the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting comforting shadows. Ethan felt a ripple of anticipation as he prepared to share what had unfolded since their last discussion. Clara shot him a look, and he nodded, encouraging her to take the lead. "Kids," she began softly, her eyes glancing at each of them, gauging their connectedness in that moment. "We wanted to talk again about what's happening, about why we're not living together anymore." Ethan could sense a shift in the atmosphere as the kids sat up straighter, unconsciously grasping onto the moment. Mia spoke first, her small voice cutting through the tense silence. "Is it because you love Ryan now?" Clara took a deep breath, knowing how crucial honesty was going to be. "No, it's actually not about love at all. Love is complicated. The truth is that I made some choices that hurt our family, and I want you both to know that's on me." He could see Mia's brow knit in confusion as she processed Clara's admission. "But why couldn't you just be with us? Why did you have to hide things?" "Because I was scared," Clara explained, tears threatening to spill. "I didn't want you to think less of me, and I thought if I could keep everything together, I could protect you." Ethan watched as their kids seemed to absorb their mother's words, the emotions swirling and shifting like fog. He felt the tension within him dissipate slightly, recognizing the transformative power of honesty. "Mom," Theo spoke up, his brow furrowed. "How could you protect us when you were hiding stuff?" "It was a mistake, buddy," Clara replied, her voice halting as the truth seeped through the honesty of the moment. "I should have trusted you to deal with the truth, no matter how ugly it seemed." Ethan reinforced this truth, stepping in. "We all make mistakes, but the important thing is recognizing them and learning to do better. Clara wants to show you both that she can be better, and I want to reassure you that no matter what, I'm here for you both, too." With this exchange, he saw a flicker of acknowledgement pass between the children. "What can we do to make things better?" Mia asked, her small hands fidgeting. "You can be honest with us," Clara encouraged, and the raw emotion in her voice allowed for a pained yet profound connection. "Say what you're feeling, no matter how scary it is, because your feelings are valid." Ethan marveled at the growth taking place, understanding that this moment, however small, carried profound significance. The children were witnessing the beginnings of a recovery process. It was a lesson in vulnerability and humility he hoped would resonate. "Okay, Mom," Theo said, his confidence growing along with sincerity. I'm scared about losing you. I don't want things to change." Tears welled in Clara's eyes again, heavier this time, threatening to spill over the edge. "I can't imagine feeling that way. Remember that I'm always going to fight for you both, no matter what happens." "That goes for me too," Ethan added. "We are two separate people in this, but we are still your parents. No matter how much things change, our love for you remains completely unchanged." As the revelation settled in the air, Ethan felt a profound shift, one grounded in honesty that held a glimmer of hope. Even Clara's face, usually weary and faded with uncertainty, illuminated slightly with a lightness, a sense of openness to embrace the changes. "Thank you," Mia said quietly, suddenly wrapping her arms around her mother. Theo followed suit, and the room swelled with warmth. Ethan took a step back, witnessing what had unfolded, the fragmented pieces of their family beginning to mend, almost unrecognizably. That night, as they transitioned into their separate rooms, Ethan realized something monumental had clicked into place. The collective honesty paved the way toward rebuilding trust. Clara's vulnerability had been a necessary catalyst, but the unscripted love they shared would help cultivate a safe space. In the days that followed, the conversations deepened, emotions flowed freely. Small gatherings, coffee dates, and more structured family dinners became routine. They began to navigate the murky waters together, sharing fears, celebrating successes, and reminding each other that they were still a family pursuing stability. Ethan's resolve solidified further, each step drawn deeper into self-awareness, each decision rooted in the hope that, through vulnerability, they could emerge stronger on the other side. He faced the impending legal battles, knowing he would persistently ground himself in the best interests of his children. And as Clara slowly embraced the act of admitting her mistakes and facing her fears, Ethan felt the shackles of resentment loosen. They were allies on this journey now, acknowledging each other's struggles while championing love, compassion, and honest discourse. With every shift toward openness, he knew they were laying the groundwork, not just for the tumult ahead, but also for a renewed connection, one built on accountability, truth, and an unwavering commitment to their family's unity. In the delicate dance of respect, hope flickered brightly amid the shadows. It was becoming clear. This was not just about surviving the storm. It was about transforming their future.